All right, let's talk about it. The Statement of Purpose, the SOP. If you're applying to grad school, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's probably the most high stakes, maybe the most nerve-wracking piece of the whole application. I mean, this is it, right? It's your one big chance to talk directly to the people who'll decide your future.
And yeah, this is the question that keeps people staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., isn't it? How on earth do you prove you're ready for the tough stuff of graduate study? How do you convince these, super smart academics that you've got the right stuff? In just a page or two, it can feel totally impossible. But I'm here to tell you, it's not. The secret, it's all about changing how you think about it. It's not a personal essay.
And this is a huge mindset shift, so really let this sink in. Your SOP is not a diary. It's not your life story. It's definitely not just a list of stuff you've done. So what is it then? Well, think of it like a professional pitch. It's an argument for your future self. It's like you're building a bridge from everything you've done in the past right over to where you're going in the future. So, how are we going to help you build that bridge? Well, we've got a roadmap. First, we'll really nail down what it means for the SOP to be a strategic pitch. Then, we'll get into a 4-part framework that just works. After that, we'll talk about the secret ingredient, making sure you're a perfect fit for the program. We'll even touch on how things change depending on where in the world you're applying. And finally, we'll wrap up with some pro tips and, just as important, the common mistakes you've got to avoid.
Okay, let's jump into part 1. Thinking of your SOP as a strategic pitch. This is so important. The admissions committee, they don't want your biography. They want a blueprint of your scientific curiosity. They're trying to figure out how you think and, crucially, where you're planning to go. And you've got to understand, after your grades, the SOP is often the single most important part of your application. Seriously, its job is to prove 3 things: what you intend to do, the path you're on, and how your skills and ideas perfectly line up with what that specific program is all about. It's basically a technical argument for your readiness. And you're the subject of that argument.
So the big question is, how do you actually build that argument? Well, you need a solid structure, a strong foundation. And luckily, there's a proven framework we can follow. It's so good, in fact, that top-tier schools like UC Berkeley actually recommend something really similar to their own applicants. Okay, this 4-part structure is all about creating a powerful story. First, you've got the hook. This is where you grab their attention with a meaningful moment that started it all. Second, your scholarly prep. This is where you lay out the proof, detailing your technical skills. Third, you bring in your recent experience, connecting any work you've done back to your research goals. And fourth, you bring it all home. You state exactly what you want to study, and most importantly, with whom. All right, let's zoom in on that hook for a second. There is one cliché that you have to avoid at all costs. Ever since I was a child, I've loved science. I'm telling you, that's the fastest way to get your application put in the no pile. It's just so generic, it's forgettable, and it tells the committee zero about you as a serious scholar. Now compare that to this. This is an example of an amazing hook. A student wrote about their Grandma Betty, who, get this, doggedly tracked family health histories in a spiral-bound notebook. See the difference? Instead of some vague passion, this is grounded in a specific, personal, unforgettable story. It's real, and it immediately kicks off a compelling story about an interest in data and health. That's how you make them sit up and pay attention. And this leads us perfectly into what I like to call the secret ingredient, the thing that takes an SOP from just good to great. It's all about applicant-program fit. Listen, it is not enough to just be a brilliant applicant. You have to prove you're a brilliant applicant for them, for their specific program. And one of the best ways to do that is by following the 2 to 3 professor rule. It's simple. If you name too many professors, you look like you haven't really focused your interests. But if you only name 1, that's super risky. What if they're on leave that year or not taking new students? Naming 2 or 3 professors hits that sweet spot. It shows you're focused, but you're also flexible. So how do you show you've actually done your homework? You've got to dig deep. I mean, really research their publications, look at their websites, find the questions they're asking that connect to your own questions. Mention specific labs or research centers or other resources at the university. And here's the key. Explain how their work connects to your journey. You're not just name dropping, you're showing you understand the whole institutional structure, not just a few famous names.
Now, something else to keep in mind is that the rules of the game can change depending on where you're playing. The expectations for a great statement of purpose can be really different depending on the country and its academic culture. So, you've got to tailor your pitch across borders. Let's break it down. In the US, you'll often find that a strong personal story is expected, one that wraps around all your technical proof. In Europe, it's usually much more direct. They want a straightforward, evidence-based case focusing on your academic background and a super clear research plan. They often assume you already have a master's degree. And then in Canada, some programs will want you to talk about your positionality, basically how your personal and cultural background shapes your research. The bottom line, know your audience. Okay, let's get into the final stretch. We're going to go through some expert tips and the biggest pitfalls you need to dodge to take your draft from just strong to a winning statement. Okay, if you remember one thing, let it be this: show, don't tell. Anybody can write, "I am a hard worker." It means nothing. You need to show your impact with numbers. Instead of saying you led a team, say you led a team that improved efficiency by 15%. Or instead of just saying you did research, say you quantified the kinetics of 3 enzymes. Hard data will always be more powerful than just saying you're good at something. Here are a few more pro tips. First, nobody writes a killer SOP in one go. You need to plan for a real drafting cycle. I'm talking 5, even 10 deep revisions. Second, get feedback. Show it to your mentors, your professors, people you trust. Third, make sure it's your authentic voice. You have to write it yourself. And please respect the word limits. Going over the limit basically screams, "I can't focus." And finally, proofread. And then proofread again. Typos and errors just give such a terrible impression. And speaking of bad impressions, let's talk about the new kiss of death for applications. Admissions committees are talking about this all the time now. Using generative AI to write your statement. Just don't do it. They are looking for your voice, your unique way of thinking. And trust me, they are getting incredibly good at spotting that generic AI-generated text. Using it is becoming a surefire way to get your application tossed. Okay, so let's quickly review the 3 biggest mistakes that can sink your application. First is the catalog mistake. This is where you just list things from your CV. It wastes precious space. You need to explain what you learned from each experience. Second, don't overpraise the school. It sounds fake. A much better way to show interest is to talk intelligently about a professor's work. And finally, being too generic. It just looks like you're sending out the same essay to a dozen schools. You have to be specific. So let's bring it all together. The single most important thing to take away is this. Your SOP is not a biography. It's not about looking backward. It is a blueprint for your future. It's a strategic plan that you create, you control, and you use to show exactly how you're going to contribute to your field. Think about it. It's this incredibly powerful tool. And when you write it with care, with a clear intention, and with your own genuine voice, it can literally open the door to the next chapter of your life. So, you've seen the blueprint. Now what are you going to build?